Please be seated. Good morning. So today I would like to share with you my very favorite image of baptism of all time. It comes from the opening scene of the 1973 movie adaptation of the musical Godspell. It's the middle of an average workday, and a group of disparate young people is surprised to find their day interrupted by the sound of singing. Cab driver, ballet dancer, parking attendant, waitress, each one immediately drops whatever it is they are doing to follow the music. And they converge at the music's source. A man wearing a red, green, and yellow circus ringmaster type tailcoat, a striped t-shirt, and bell bottoms. The man has a scraggly looking beard and long hair, and he's standing at the very top of a fountain, clinging to the statue of an angel at its top. This oddly dressed man is John the Baptist, played by David Haskell. The fountain is Bethesda Fountain in Central Park, and the statue is called Angel of the Waters. The entire structure is inspired by a man-made bath in Jerusalem, which, according to legend, is regularly visited by angels with healing powers. That should sound familiar. The statue's designer even quoted the Gospel of John at its dedication in 1873, saying, "Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, which is called Bethesda. Whoever then first after the troubling of the waters stepped in was made whole of whatsoever disease he had. This is the pool beside which the paralyzed man waits. He can't get in by himself, so he sits and waits for someone to pick him up and lower him into the water. And then Jesus comes along." So this fountain in Central Park commemorates the opening of the aqueduct which brought clean, fresh water to New York City for the very first time in 1842. New Yorkers had already suffered through numerous devastating epidemics and diseases because of contaminated drinking water. So the clean water supplied by the aqueduct very likely saved the city from a cholera epidemic. And the fountain through which that fresh water flowed remains a symbol of healing today. So it's no surprise that this is the fountain in which our random group of Godspellers are joyfully splashing around. Whatever they'd worn to work that day, soaked. Their shoes and purses, you see them jumping out the water, but it doesn't seem to bother them. They are overcome with joy at this impromptu baptism in a fountain in the middle of a public park, in the middle of the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And as far as we know, none of these people had prepared for this moment, at least not in any kind of intentional way. There are no baptism prep classes to attend, no examination of the candidates, no special place to stand or outfit to wear. All they have to do is show up and step into the water. My favorite part of my favorite scene comes as the camera cuts to a young woman just outside the base of the fountain. It's clear that she desperately wants to join in, but it's also clear that she's questioning whether or not she should. As she squeals, I can't squeal good, "Me?" John the Baptist immediately dashes over to her, picks her up, and lifts her into the water, where she gratefully splashes around with everybody else. The mechanics of baptism, how it's properly done, who gets to participate, all that, have been debated for centuries. But the fountain scene in Godspell offers us a glimpse of a moment when baptism is just water and the Spirit of God moving amongst a ragtag group of people going about the business of their everyday lives. And then Jesus comes along. I imagine the scene at the Jordan River is similar, minus the bell-bottoms. And I like to imagine the man healed beside that pool of Bethesda in Jerusalem going back to splash around in it once he has regained the use of his legs. This is baptism, distilled down to its very essence. And that essence is characterized by invitation and relationship. The people splashing around in that fountain in Central Park are there because they have responded to an invitation to healing and wholeness, an invitation so irresistible that they abandon everything to follow it. Even those on the periphery who wonder, is this for me? And a God who through water and this man in a silly outfit says, yes. I love this scene. The joy on their wet faces is pure and unmistakable. And John the Baptist and Jesus are equal participants. They're as jubilant and drenched as the rest of them. If baptism is the basis for relationship with God, then this is as good a demonstration as any. What I find especially moving about this scene is that neither the invitation nor the relationship happens in isolation. When I talk with young people about sacraments and rites, usually as they're preparing for confirmation, we spend a fair amount of time exploring the communal nature of baptism and confirmation. Neither has a test to take. It's not a box to check. It's one piece of a larger journey within the context of faith. Each is a step to be taken with God's help and within the collective nurturing relationships of the community. The Godspell scene, which happens at the very beginning, it takes the first 2.5 minutes of a nearly 2-hour-long movie. The rest is all about the group members' relationship with each other, with Jesus, and within this new faith community. In baptism and confirmation, in all our worship, I would argue, there are witnesses, there is eager anticipation, there is doubt, there is risk, and there is joy. Like those people splashing around in the fountain, we ask ourselves, is this for me? And when we respond to that invitation, we are transformed. As much as I do love our liturgical traditions, sometimes I long for the simplicity of that baptism in the water of a fountain. Can you imagine the feel of the coins on the floor of the pool, the coolness of the water on my skin, and the warmth of the sun as it dries each one of those droplets? I grew up by the ocean, and one of my favorite days each year is the first time I get to put my feet in the water after a long, cold winter. And there's a song by the Eli Young Band, and I think the refrain captures that feeling. When I go down and sink my feet in the water, and I soak up that sun and I watch it set, I can feel the power of that saltwater gospel, and I'm as close to God as I can get. When John baptizes Jesus in the Jordan River, he is literally as close to God as he can get. So are those people in the fountain in New York City. So is that unnamed man at the pool in Jerusalem. And so are all the folks who have been and will be sprinkled with water over that marble font right there. Is this for me? Yes. Yes, it is. It's for all of us who dropped whatever we were doing to come here this morning. Our font is a wee bit smaller than the fountain in Central Park, so we can't very well splash around in there together. So instead, as we renew our baptismal vows in just a minute, I invite you to envision stepping into that holy, healing water. And in that moment, may we be as close to God as we can get. Amen.